Welcome back. Thank you for hanging out with us once again. This is the IT in the D show. I'm your host, Bob Waltonspiel, hanging out with producer and co-host extraordinaire Randy Walker. Guest this week, the guys from my favorite con in the state of Michigan, actually in the country, because I've been to a few outside of the state. Mike and Dustin in the house from Astronomicon. We're going to be talking about Astronomicon 6.5. Little crazy story why it's at 6.5. But hey, you can find us online, itandthed.com, and do us a favor, give us a like on the socials, subscribe to us everywhere fine podcasts are sold. Gentlemen, how they treating you, man? I mean, this is like you're at D-Day. You're almost 5 days away from grand opening. How you feeling right now?
It's a typical week of Astro, regardless of 6.5 or 6 or 7 or whatever. It's the same feelings and the same stuff you have to get completed in your timeline.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you guys were on pre-Astronomicon 1. Am I mistaken, or am I correct? We might have to look back in the archives.
I think we did 2 and 3.
Where you guys were in studio talking about it?
I thought we were on 1 as well. I thought we did the one before that.
You were in studio for that.
I mean, it's possible. We definitely did we ran the gamut of all local podcasts and press outlets we could. So my memory from 1 isn't, I blacked out.
That one was a blur.
I can imagine. So for those that don't know, I'll get into why it's my favorite con in a minute, but why don't you go back to like day 1 when this thing was just a gleam in your daddy's eye and talk about us how this thing was born and how it came to be.
So Dustin and I, 9 to 5, 5 days a week, we both work for Twisted. Twisted is a national touring band, if you will. And they were invited for a few years to be guests at horror conventions like Walker Stalker, Days of the Dead, Wizard World when it was around. And so Rock and Shock annually. And so after a few of them, the idea was like, hey, we can do this. And no one really knew what that meant. We had a gigantic whiteboard, tons of ideas. Originally, the idea was for it to be in Denver. And then it just ended up playing out where it's like, hey, we're going to do a convention. And we're like, what does that mean? And they're like, you're going to do a convention. And I remember Dustin was sitting in Paul's office. They had 20, 30 different names. And Dustin said, and it was on our list, Astronomicon. And it just, everybody lit up. We're like, yeah, that's it. And we just made sure it was not an existing convention. And that was how it got named. And it started in February. And we figured February was good because there's nothing else going on. And it could be our own thing. We didn't compete with anybody because, we are new in the space and we want to be cool.
We competed with the snow.
Yeah.
Nobody thought about weather in Michigan when we planned this great.
Well, as Michiganders go in February, we know what to expect anyway. So we're just like, what's the worst that could happen?
You're competing with Mother Nature, no doubt.
Man.
She does not like Astronomicon.
There's a reason no one did cons in February.
Yeah, so our first year, we had a solid lineup. I knew before we even had a convention, I was like, if we're going to do this, we need like hometown Michigan people. We need pop culture people. We want to be multi-genre. We don't want to pigeonhole ourselves. We took some risks, but we also made sure we had our friends. We had Kane Hodder, Bill Mosley. We had, who else was here? We reached out to Ming Chen. We brought in Brian.
Ming Chen was our first. That was our first guest ever.
Yeah, so Ming Chen was legit. We had booked Sid Haig and Mick Foley. Some things fell through where they weren't able to attend. We were the first convention to bring Scott Hall and Kevin Nash together as the outsiders. Yep. We had Ryan Hurst for the first time in Michigan, and that was massive for us.
Who's also coming back this year. His mighty return from Astro 1 to Astro 6.5.
Yeah, Mike, that was one of my favorite con moments of all time in the history of my life. Was me and Eric Gutierrez, one of the artists, were in the bathroom. We were peeing together, and Scott Hall just was finishing up, washed his hands, and was walking out and said, "Hey, yo, you two are gonna have a dark match," and turned the lights off on us.
Yes.
We heard about that later because his handler Nick, ended up moving up in the Astro world to where he really runs stuff for us. And he's like, that was one of his favorite memories as well. He's like, I hung out outside of the bathroom waiting for Scott Hall. All of a sudden, he opens the door and turns off the lights with 20 guys in there, and everybody was just kind of like yelling at him. So, yeah, and we wish we could have had him. I wish he was still around. He was a great guest. Again, one of the friends of Twisted, that falls in that Bill Moseley, Kane Hodder category.
So I'm gonna give my reason on why this is kind of my favorite con, and I'm gonna give it a pro wrestling analogy, and it's like Motor City Comic Con is kind of like going to see WrestleMania at Ford Field, and while you guys are like going to see ECW at like a small arena, where it's like you're getting the accessibility, you're putting all the big names like next to each other, not through the Cedar Point line, the rat maze. Everyone's kind of talking to everyone. Everyone's on top of everyone. And I think that's what it's all about.
It's big con names with an intimate con feel,
Indeed.
100%. And you know what? We are not. The goal isn't to compete with your Grand Rapids or your Motor Cities, because they're in massive convention centers where you got to pay to park, where you walk through stanchions. Again, like it's Cedar Point. I don't want to wait 2 hours to meet my favorite insert guest here, right? I also don't want to feel like it's all about the money. At Astronomicon, you can come and just walk by and just say hi. Again, Ming Chen hangs out in front of the table where he's sharing Fago and just kicking it with everybody, as opposed to this corporate, again, like faceless, nameless people just there to.
It's like herding cattle at that point. You're just like, yep, shove them in there, get your picture and go, get your autograph and go.
Well, nothing was worse than like, and I don't mean to throw him under the bus because he's an old man, but Billy D. Williams, and he just would have his head down and just scribble on a picture that you just paid, $80 for, and you keep walking. He doesn't even say hi. Like, I don't need to hear your life story. I don't even need to shake your hand, but like keeping your head down and not saying a word, you feel like, oh, okay, well, thanks.
You could be a little more personable, right?
A little, I don't, like I said,
and we do a pretty good. We do a pretty good job of making sure that the guests that we're bringing are those types of guests who you can stand around and talk to for a few minutes and not just get, all right, thanks, man. Have a good day.
Yeah.
Or not even get to have a good day.
Well, that was like the first time I ever realized that the some of those people were actually cool was when we met Face from A-Team. And he said, his line was a mile long, and we knew why, because he was telling stories. But like, I'm talking about this like almost 15 years later, how cool of an experience it was, and I don't even know what he was talking. All I know, oh my God, Mike, I got to tell you this. So I was DJing at the Post Bar Novi across the street from Motor City.
Oh, wow.
And I tell Dirk Benedict, and I said, hey, Dirk, I'm DJing tonight at the club across the street. It's a great place. You can be my VIP. And he looks at me straight in the face and he goes, do they have single malt scotch? And I said, and I go, yeah. And he gets this like orgasmic look and like shakes a little bit. And I'm like, oh my God. So he's like, I'm staying in this room. Call me. And I didn't think nothing of it. And all of a sudden I told the manager, and I end up calling around 11:30 at night. And he picks up and it's like, just shaking. And he's like, hello. And I go, hey, this is DJ Bob. I'm at the Post across the street. And you just hear, I'm going to yell. So sorry, Randy. He's like, just clang up, and I go, yeah, he's not coming, Frank.
Did you call? Was that Bobcat Goldthwait?
Knocking on something, but that was a story all night. Is I let the whole bar down because Face isn't showing up. So, but see, that's again though. Those are the stories you tell for a long time when you have those moments with people. It's just like I don't think do they realize like the impact they have on like us normal people's lives, like when they can do something like that, and it's like the Scott Hall story. Like I don't even know if they know. Do they?
I think that I think they all do. Let's start there. Like they all subconsciously or consciously know like that they have an effect on everybody. They're there for a reason, right? They're there because somebody, us, wants to put them in front of their fan base to make their day, right? And you see it a lot with like,
yeah,
like we had Trish Stratus in March,
lovely woman,
right? And March was to us, we were like, all right, dude, Kevin Smith, Jason Lee, John Lovitz, Trish Stratus, like our guest list was perfect. We were so excited. And then Friday,
and then it happened to us.
Mother Nature hates us, but Trish Stratus went home Friday, went back to the airport Saturday, got on the plane Saturday after hanging out in the Delta Lounge, and we had like multiple tickets.
And it's an international flight. That's not a domestic flight.
Yeah.
Right. So she's in Toronto. We had 3 different tickets on 3 different planes. Like, whatever one leaves first, get on, right? We'll be fine. She ends up getting there, and all the, like, kids, that's how you know when it really hits home, is, like, watching the guests interact with kids is, like, when the kids pop and then the celebrity pops, then you're like, yeah, they get it, right? Like, watching my son interact with John Lovitz, hilarious. Right? Like, it was very, like, straight comedy, but, like, my kid and John Lovitz were, like, awkward together. It was phenomenal, right? They smiled. It was cool. We got pictures.
Mike, I can attest to Trish Stratus. I was sitting with Ming, and she was a table over or 2 tables over, and just watching how she interacted with people, even after she was, like, 3 hours of people saying God knows what to her. Remember this one time? And she was like $1 million smile, all about it, like acted genuinely like she was so thankful and happy to be there. She floored me.
Stratus, she was actually one of the, when we go back to talk about those little moments you have with people, last year we'd already had our bombs dropped on us of Jason and Kevin not being able to make it because of flights. And then, Trish is delayed. And then, so we're waiting on her and photo ops are done. And I call her, one of our driving staff, Steve. And I was like, he picks up the phone and I didn't know he was on speaker. And I was like, Steve, how are you? And he's like, Dustin, I'm good. I was like, do you have Trish? And I just hear in the background, Dustin, I'm here, baby. We're on our way. And she was right there, blew my mind. I was like, oh, you sweet, sweet lady.
So Steve and I are soccer dads. We go way back.
Oh, really?
And that's what he said.
He's texting me and rubbing my nose in the proverbial shit that Trish is in the car with him, and he knows I'm a wrestling fan.
Oh, yeah.
You dirty son of a bitch. I hate your guts.
Oh, he was so excited. And I was excited for him. I was like, you know what?
Trish Stratus loved Steve.
Oh, yeah.
She was like, oh, he could just take me everywhere.
100%. They bonded, and that's good. Like, if you don't have that at least down-to-earth connection and know why you are where you are, or, how you got to this point in your career, it's not, we don't really want that type of person. We want to set that precedence of people are here for a reason. They're here to make the experience. They're here because they know in fandom or whatever it is that, the fans are here for you. And that's, she was one of those ones that knew it and completely took the time with everybody that she could and on the limited time that she had and just made everybody's day.
So I need to ask the question to you guys. And I sometimes ask our hard questions, and this one might be a little difficult, but like we reminisce once in a while. And I said, remember when you used to be able to go to a con for $200 and, 20 was getting in the door and you'd buy a couple vintage toys and books and you'd have 5 $20 bills and you'd get 5 autographs and 5 pictures.
Oh yeah.
And it wasn't that long ago when that happened. And I don't know who set the market. And obviously it's not you guys, but the market got crazy expensive really fast.
I feel like I'm not going to say it was the that Marvel Cinematic Universe. But
They
that to
definitely
me was
pushed.
when I noticed that Ace Comic Con was only bringing in 7 to 10 guests, but their 7 to 10 guests were Chris Evans, Hemsworth, and they're like, VIP packages are just $500. It's like, oh, so you get an autograph, a picture, access to the convention, the panels, and it's $500, and I'm really only just going for Captain America? Okay. I mean,
It's not bad.
if that's what you're into, right? Like me, I'm a little bit more selective in who I want to meet, right? And that's why Astronomicon is so multi-genred. I don't do the horror stuff the way Dustin and Jamie and Paul and George do. I'm like the wrestling guy. I'm like, ooh, we can get Booker T? All right, we got to do that. Ooh, AEW is really starting to be a thing. Let's bring in Darby Allin and Sammy Guevara. Like, I keep my ear to the wrestling world. Plus, it's something I've loved for 20 years, right? Like, probably longer. So it's like, I still think about, like, who's not price-wise going to break the bank, because, like, that does matter, right? And that's one of the things we, like, you don't pay for parking. You still, to this day, after almost 7 shows, you don't have to pay to park at our event. Granted, the parking lot sucked last year because of a bunch of tractor trailers.
Tractor trailers, snow, and inability to have common sense while parking and driving.
Fair. But, like, that's something that matters to me, right? Like, everywhere you go, you get nickeled and dimed, right? So the few things that we can save, we try to. You know, our VIP packages, we try to include parties and panels or concerts or whatever.
Not to mention the merch.
So, like, and again, you're really just paying for all the stuff that we give you. But, you know, we try to make it more than just a convention, right? It's like the whole experience. That's why there's all the free photo ops where it's like the pop box or the props or the winged demon angel thing, or, you know, the cosplayers that we bring in specific. You know, it's
most for your buck, if you will. If you come here, we have as many free events, free just attractions that you could do, so you're not just like, oh, everything is a receipt. Everything I touch or look at is a receipt right now. Like, you're just gonna get to the end of the door and they're gonna be like, well, here's your bill. Pay that before you go out.
You're right. I mean, but that's the thing though. Like, I'm old enough for, like, you know, not pre-internet, but you could buy everything online. You know, where I used to go to the book, you know, the toy shows and the, you know, comic book shows. And then all of a sudden, when you could buy everything that you needed online, it was all about the celebrity, because you couldn't get that online. You can't have that handshake and that autograph.
You know, have that experience.
It's the experience. You can't buy that. So that was like, I can buy the Millennium Falcon vintage online tomorrow. You know what I mean? That's
right.
What's so special in that? But I can't shake Trish Stratus's hand and take a selfie with her. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I think they've all morphed. You can't even, they don't even justify being called Comic Cons anymore. These are like pop culture.
I mean, bow down to the master where it came from. Yes, the Comic Con started it all for any of the cons, but yeah, it absolutely snowballed into something that's more than just Comic Cons. It's fandom. It's bringing the characters or the celebrities or whatever you want to call them to the fans.
So I gotta,
and honestly, like, I buy vintage toys, right? So I collect real Ghostbusters, Ninja Turtles from the 80s, and a little bit of Batman, right? I go to every convention in Michigan. I make sure I look for vintage toys, and there was nothing. I literally left buying nothing at the last convention I went to last month, and all we did was meet George Feeney, right? We met Mr.
Absolutely.
Feeney.
Boy Meets World.
Anything Boy Meets World, this guy's going to travel to the ends of the earth for.
So we met Mr. Feeney. We got our photo op, and that was it. Like, and it was great because I didn't have to spend any money, because I'm like, okay, everything is either vastly overpriced, or, because again, you can just go to eBay, like you said. I can stand in front of the toy. I can say, oh, that seems high. I can search it online, Facebook Marketplace or eBay or what have you, and probably find it cheaper or in the same price range. And it's not of the impulse. like, oh, I'm never going to see it again. Well, that's not true.
Yeah. I got to tell a quick story, then we'll jump into the guest lineup this year, because you guys are, for doing a half show, you guys loaded this one up too. I went to Philly this past summer with my best friend. We just wanted to go eat, so we're like, let's go eat cheesesteaks. And I go, Red Bank's an hour and a half away. And I hollered at Ming's buddy Mike Zapsik, and I said, "You going to be in Red Bank on Saturday?" I says, "We'll come up and see you." So we go to the secret stash, which was like, I was totally like a little kid marking out and standing in front of the stash.
Oh yeah.
And then Mike's like, Kevin's here. And I go, "What do you mean Kevin's here?" And out comes Kevin Smith, shook my hand, hung out, took pictures, told stories. We talked about podcasting and how I met Ming and Mike at the Gibraltar Trade Center when there was a gun show going on. So
that's an awesome story.
Yeah. So like literally driving home with a smile. And Jay was there too. But it was totally cool. But the fact that he doesn't come here. I think I saw him do a night with Kevin Smith at the Windsor Comic-Con going back, I think 15-ish years.
No, Windsor Comic-Con was
when maybe it was 10. This COVID thing messes up my internal calendar.
Oh yeah, there's like 3 years that are just off the plate there.
Right.
Yeah, it was like 2013 to 15 somewhere.
But I mean, he talked for 4 hours and didn't take a breath.
But he also didn't meet any fans.
No, he didn't. It was just that
was before he was meeting fans. And like we went and saw him, Dustin, George went and saw him at the
it was at the Fillmore.
Detroit Free Press. It was like a Detroit Free Press Film Festival, and they were like the headliners, right? And the same thing. You couldn't meet them. You're just watching the panel for 2.5 hours, which was hilarious. Because
he's a talker. He wants to connect with any fan. If you're a fan, he wants to connect. He'll sit there and talk with you all day, every day. Because that's just how he's just that kind of guy. He's
I didn't realize the
personable.
Quick Stop was a functional store to this day. And we ended up driving to the Quick Stop. It was right around the corner. Ended up buying a couple bags of Funyuns in a Smart Water. Took my picture out in front of it. And I'm like, I can't believe it. Just dude working behind the counter. Like, how many idiots like me like go take a picture in front of that thing, But part of the experience, I'm like, people are like, you weren't really there. I'm like, it's really a store. It's actually a functioning, So Kevin's coming, Jay. I mean, you have the entire View Askew crew pretty much coming in. Muse, you got Kevin Smith's daughter. You have
his wife is coming for her first ever.
Oh geez, Jeremy London from Mallrats. We got a drop from him, by the way. He goes, "How did I go from hot Floridian sex with Brandy Svenning to the IT and the D show?" Phenomenal. One of my favorite drops of all time. We got Trevor from Clerks 2 and 3. You got, oh my God, Marilyn, who's the 37 in a row. Like, dude, seriously, you got like this is a stacked. And I'm not. We'll just get it. We'll get into everybody else, but just for the Clerks Mallrats crowd, I mean, this is fanboy central.
100%. And like for me, right, like Ming has been to Astro since its inception, and I said it. I'll say after year one, right? We did year one. It happened. We knew we were on to something. And I'm like, again, there's differences in age. Stan Lee will always be Stan Lee, right? But in 2018, his health was declining. We knew we were never going to get him. I'm like, if we ever get Kevin Smith, we'll know we're not on some bullshit, right? Like, it would solidify our place in Michigan convention community, right? And so it has legitimately been like borderline white whale, along with Freddy Krueger and Cassandra Peterson and some other people that we hope to
acknowledge us.
Like, yeah, right. So and so we go through 2020 and we get Clerks. We're the first ones to ever have Jeff Anderson and Brian together, and it was
that was
like,
his first con, bro.
Ever. And so he left being like, this is what I'm missing? Oh, I would do this again. We're the first convention to ever have him come as a second time. And now clearly the first to have him come for a third time.
Jeff Anderson, that's another funny story. When he first came out to his first convention, judge. People don't like to, be around people. People aren't really as extroverted as some of us are. And he didn't really seem like he wanted to talk to anybody. To flash forward to the last time I saw Jeff, and he comes up and he's like, "Dustin, what's up, my man?" Gives me a hug, and I'm like,
Wow.
"How the tables have turned, my friend."
Yeah.
And so knowing that we've stacked all these people over the years, going out of 2020, I'm like, all right, they just announced Kevin's going to do Horror Hound. We have a shot. Reach out to the agent. COVID. And we're like, oh, shit, COVID. All right. Coming out of COVID, we schedule, they're doing Clerks 3. We're like, well, let's have Jay. And we had Shannon Elizabeth. And we're like, all right, this will work for the reboot that had already happened. And Jay cancels. And so I'm like, so that's Astro 4. Astro 5, nobody was available. And Astro 6, we're like, let's just try it. Kevin's available. Then Jason Lee becomes available. So we just, again, I'm like, this is my dream and my goal is to get him to our event because it solidifies us, right? He gives us validity. And then the weather. and Ming is with us. And I'm like, Ming, the universe does not want me to meet Kevin Smith.
It really doesn't.
Yeah.
Every time he's in Michigan, anytime he's at the stash, literally, I'm like I'm in Wisconsin, I'm in Florida. I'm like, geez.
They're almost booked a year out, I think, at least.
So it's like, I was like, it's just not meant to be. And to Kevin's credit, to his agents and her staff and the people on site here during that snowstorm in March, we tried.
Oh, 100%. There was not a stone unturned to try to get him here or try to find a solution to be like, nope, well, he can only come in and it's just for 2 hours, but he's going to meet everybody that, like, there's nothing more we could have done to try to get him in.
We even bought plane tickets for Sunday. He was going to cancel his event at his own cinema on Sunday to come see us. And the plane ticket was like stupid money, like 3 times what it should have cost. And Delta canceled the flight. They're like, too many
flights. The flight was there. It was got, but nope, they canceled like
immediately. Yeah. So we tried, and I'm like, all right. And he, made a video, was like, hey guys, I will make it up to you. And so we immediately were like, we don't want to wait a year because a lot can happen in a year.
Yeah.
He's not available next year, and then you got to wait 2 years. And so that leads us to like, let's do Astro 6.5. And I tried to get everybody back, right? I tried to get Ethan Suppley back. I tried to get Joey Lauren Adams back. Like, I wanted all that and Kevin. And then, Jen became available. So she's doing her first convention. We're bringing in, Marilyn's never been to Astronomicon. Right. So some of the Mallrats people have never been to our event. So we're trying to still be true to us and bring in some new people, but still have the core. And so for Kevin Smith to go on Twitter and say that our convention is the real life version of his Chronic Con, it's over. It's over. Like, that's the biggest compliment. He created his own convention in the reboot and called our convention that. Like,
I think that was because of the smell, Mike. I think that
tugs to my heartstrings right there, my friend.
That's that
no,
guy.
it's up here. See, you got to point down there. You mean this way? No, you're pointing the wrong way. You're pointing someone else.
Oh, on my screen, you're over here.
I feel like once I actually meet Kevin when he's there, it's going to be almost like that M&M's Christmas commercial where they meet Santa Claus, and it's like, he does exist. I do exist, and we both pass out.
Real to me at all. Like, you think about that. You've only known him from TV for, you know what I mean? They don't. Right. It doesn't feel real.
It doesn't feel real. All I know is someone has talked to you, and we have talked to get you in, but it has never happened. Do you really exist, Kevin? Are you a real person? We're going to find out in about 4 or 5 days.
Before I go any further, I have to give you guys accolades. I don't know how you handle Facebook for Astronomicon. You guys are saints. You guys are patient. The amount of questions, because here's the thing, this is an IT and the D tradition. If somebody would post online, what time is your event? I would literally take a screenshot, put it in MS Paint, put a big red letter on where you can find it online, and that would be my reply. I was such a snarky dick if you would ask. Like,
saved replies are a good thing, my friend. Just like, well, you know what? Click. There you go.
But I see these questions, and I knew my blood pressure would be through the roof, and you guys were so polite about it. And I'm like, it can't be you. It's probably like an intern. I'm like, just don't.
Oh no, like, oh no, my friend. There is two people that do it, and normally it's that guy. I'll do some things. I do moderation of like cleaning up the chat and whatnot. But when it comes to answering stuff, it's that guy. So
you're a saint. You somebody owes you upstairs or downstairs for the sainthood that you're performing. Either way.
So there's a fun thing in our world outside of Astro. Dustin, George, Jamie, Paul, everyone who works with us. This guy is known as sort of a dick.
Sort of.
Kind of an asshole. And then you meet the Astronomicon.
Astro Mike is a different Mike than regular Mike.
100%. So but it's also a different, you're dealing with different people, right? If I deal with Dustin every day, yeah, I'm a dick because it's just frustrating. These people I don't know them. They don't know me. I can just be like,
Mike, to your chagrin, Astro Dustin is different than regular Dustin. Not by much.
Also true.
But I clean it up. I clean it up for the Astro crowd.
So,
and realistically, like, again, I look at Astronomicon as being an all ages, family friendly event, and I treat everyone there where I would expect to be treated.
Until you walk by Peter Dante's table.
Well,
go on.
It's so funny because I know this is only audio, but we can see each other, so I'm just making faces, and I'm like, it's not going to play in audio. Oh, the sarcasm is real.
Peter Dante's another one that like we fell into.
Love him.
He is the. So there's probably 3 people that make Astro every year: Ming Chen, Dustin.
My liver is thanking God Ming can't make 6.5. I'm just being candid.
I can fill in for Ming's spot, if you will.
I took Ming and Mike to Hamtramck once. They've never been. And we went and ate at Polish Village, and then we went to Whiskey in a Jar. And our picture, the bartenders were fanboys, went crazy, put a bottle of peppermint schnapps and a bottle of Yeji on our table.
Ooh.
And basically printed a picture, and then we all signed it, and then they put it on the wall. So like literally with Ming and Mike and me and a couple other people that were hanging around are still on the wall at Whiskey in a Jar. So every time Ming comes in, we got to take him to Hamtown.
Hell yeah.
So now I don't have anyone to take, so we'll have to work something out to take a group down there. So
come on, Mike, we're going to go down and pop your Hamtramcks.
We don't have time for that.
So I have to admit, I don't fanboy too much. Not after I did the Tommy Dreamer ECW reunion around 5-6 years ago, my buddy Mark's bachelor party, Rhino versus Rob Van Dam in the main event, and Rhino took me backstage, got me basically hanging out with everybody. So I don't fanboy much, but I did buy my black hockey goalie helmet for Demolition this weekend. And I did buy my top hat for Buff Bagwell, even though I met Bagwell at the Kobo show for XICW that I got to do the play-by-play for. I never got the top hat. So I got Al Snow's head. So I'm finally accumulating the last few pieces of
Can I ask you both of you as wrestling fans, me, yes, I watched during Attitude Era, but I haven't been into the wrestling scene for probably 15, 20 years. Is it, I mean, I know I'm a big person, but we're all big people.
Yeah.
When you meet these wrestlers, do you find that most of them are smaller looking than they appear?
When I got to meet Animal, and Animal's legit 6'4". And if you look at him on TV, because Hawk was 6'7".
Yeah.
So you thought he was like 6 foot. Hawk was like, I got pictures with everybody. Billy Gunn's bigger than me. I hang out with Rhino. He's about my size. Most of them,
He's thick.
yeah.
He is like that's the other thing is you don't notice how badass or ripped or muscly they are when they're wearing normal clothes. But like when the boogeyman is an Astro,
Boogeyman
he is in
solid.
I'm like, dear Lord, like this man is like a bouncer.
I took out little Guido once to a bar on Gratiot, and I've eaten sandwiches bigger than little Guido, but I'm just saying.
Like when we had Tiny Lister, may he rest in peace. But when that man stood up and that voice came out, I'm like, oh my, like he dwarfed me as a normal man.
He was about my height. I got a picture with him. The best part about that picture, it's a Lake Titicaca 1973 motorboat champion T-shirt, and I'm shaking hands. I'm shaking hands with Zeus wearing this stupid T-shirt.
Hell yeah, that's amazing.
I'm looking at like all the stuff going on, and like I'm completely gonna fanboy out again. I can't wait to hang out and and to go see one of the guys that grew up with Dave Santia. As I'm talking, his Flash Gordon paintings are sitting right to my left on the wall.
And Dave Santia is a Astro alumni. He's been around for a few of them. So
it's my best friend's cousin. I grew up with him since we were little kids. So yeah.
Small world.
And that's another thing that we do that no other convention's hip to. Like, you are all missing out. Attention, convention, promoters of Michigan, not having Dave Santia at your event is a disservice to your fans.
It's a thing.
It's very entertaining to watch, and it's actually very quick. Like when he says speed painter, like I don't think you understand. Like it's quick and it's damn good. Like the paintings he actually comes up with, especially because it's upside down, he spins it around. And then if you've never seen it before, spoiler alert.
So I got the Flash Gordon
online.
I got the
Dave Santia's Art and Soul on Facebook will blow your mind.
I paid way too much for it's actually not, I should have paid more, but the Flash Gordon it was painted in front of Flash Gordon, signed by Flash Gordon with Flash Gordon music in the background. And I didn't buy the Darth Vader signed by David Prowse, which was like the OG in the suit Darth Vader. And I didn't, and that's my biggest regret, not buying that I think he went for like obscenely cheap for Dave's prices,
I own 2 Dave.
Okay.
Right.
Is that out of happenstance?
No,
that's 2 you bought yourself.
I was like, this is what I'm doing for me. Like, I was like, this is something, again, I look at what we do at Astronomicon, both as a team and a personal victory, right? Celebrating our successes. So I purchased the Clerks dual painting of Jeff and Brian, and it is in my basement. And then again, my successes, even if I don't know or care, I also own the Corey Taylor.
And they are both wrapped with divorce papers, right?
Yeah, the Corey Taylor's actually still at my
it's hidden, yes.
This is how I knew I married the right woman, because I told her what I paid for it. And she just looks at me and she goes, "We can make more money." Like she got it. You can't buy it.
Money can always be made.
Yeah. And then my top 5 favorite wrestler of all time, RVD, is going to be there. I do have a Singapore cane signed by him and Sabu on the same cane, and I'm trying to.
Who was an Astro 6 alum?
Yeah.
We just had Sabu. Yeah, and RVD is one that I've been trying to get for a couple of years, and thankfully the right people reached out and we talked and we were able to get him there, and I'm so excited because again, we love bringing Michigan people home. Like, he is as Michigan as it gets.
He says Michigan is better made in Fago, right?
I got to meet him in Philly when I was talking about going to the Rhino show, and he wrestled Rob Van Dam, and we go to Tony Luke's to eat a cheesesteak after the show. RVD comes in, remembered me, sat down next to me. We ate a cheesesteak. Again, you remember this crap for the rest of your life, and it seems ridiculous. But I think that's the biggest thing, and I'll end on this, is I remember going to a ball game with Rhino, but Tigers game, opening day. And, effing Rhino, fist pump, and, hoot, and, all that crap. And I go, when does it get old? And he goes, oh, the fist pumps and the effing Rhino never gets old. You know what gets old? Remember that one time at Walmart in 97 when I said hey to you And he goes, and I got to pretend that I remember. I can't say I don't remember, but like, why? He goes, the fact that people do it, and then I think about it going,
but that's awesome of him, because while he doesn't remember, that could have made someone's
absolutely.
life.
The fan will remember for sure, but there's so many thousands of those different stories. I remember bringing Mick Foley when I picked him up, and he's like, "Hey, man, can we stop by Walmart? I need to get a couple of things." Okay. And he's just like, "Yeah, just pull up right here in the front. I'll just walk in real quick."
Yeah.
And he walks in, comes out, and as he's coming out, there's a dude, and he's like, "Hey, Mick, can I get a picture?" And he's like, "Yeah, come on, let's get a picture."
Yeah. I got to
That
pick up
made that guy's day.
I got to pick up Carlito from the airport when he wrestled for XI.
Wow.
And he wanted to go to Qdoba, and all we talked about was horror flicks and fantasy football. Like, and it was like, and you look at it, that guy's like literally one of the last remaining legends, like walking legends. His dad was the Hulk Hogan of Puerto Rico. One of the,
So here's a fun fact. Me, George, Dustin are the top 3 people who spend the least amount of time with all of the guests.
Sure.
Like, if you're a driver or a handler, you're spending the most time with these people. Some of them I've never met. We had Walter Phelan, Richard Brake. We had Richard Brake twice.
I've spoken 2 words to Richard Brake. Like, that's about it.
Because it's
like
if you don't if you don't have a reason to like go to them or interact with them or get them something or make sure that they're doing well, why? I'm not going to bother them, right? They're not here for me. So there's a few that I never.
We're there to make sure that the convention runs good. As long as you're doing good, I can go by and look at my person that's there with them. Hey, you guys good? Absolutely. Okay, that's it. That's all I need.
And like, I'm really excited we're bringing Lita back.
Lita was good the first time I met. Can I actually switch gears here, because we haven't said this, but I feel as a horror person, you said yourself, I'm the horror guy. We have Heather Langenkamp.
The horror guy, did he say, or the horror guy?
Horror, HORROR, horror guy. I know every time I say horror, it sounds like I'm saying a horror, but I'm not. Heather Langenkamp and Tom Savini,
I'm the horror guy.
Whoosh. I've met Heather one time as a fan. This was like 2012. I want to say it was like a Monster Mania or something like that in Huntsville, but she was sweet. But Tom Savini, I have been a fan of his forever. Obviously, he did the original Friday the 13th makeup. He's done some things in that horror world as far as special effects go. I'm super excited to meet him. We got 2 legends. I know the wrestling is there. I know the pop culture is there, but let us horror fans get a little bit of our fanboy on.
I was I'm ashamed of myself at Astro 6. I was sitting in with Rhino for a while, catching up. I haven't talked to him in a while. And Pinhead was sitting right next to me. And I think I'm in like 40 fan pictures because I didn't move. And like I didn't realize I was in it until people were calling me out on social, going, how many people got Bob in the background of their freaking $50
We got the
Pinhead.
Bob and Doug pick.
Right.
Doug Bradley's a great guest.
He's a sweetheart.
Would have him.
Honestly, him and his management team, super just awesome to work with. Like,
but I think it's a reflection on you all and how you treat them too, right? Because like everyone, like every single person, no one's ever been a butthole. Like I can count on 10 hands on other cons where people have been just outright buttholes. And
I can count 2 buttholes that we've had in our 7 years. I'm not gonna call them out by name.
No. I will not ask you.
Never would I call them out by their name, but I could say 2 buttholes. And even in the sense of me saying you were a butthole, that is more based on all of our experiences. Like, so were you really a butthole, or were you just a slight bit more difficult to work with?
Right.
So we have been told, because all of the people, like all the fans talk, all the promoters talk, right? And so when we wanted to book a guest, we would ask a couple of our friendly promoters, Like, hey, Days of the Dead, how did this person do? Oof, they're a handful. And we find that other people think guests could be a handful, and we don't have an issue. And maybe it's how we handle them or what we do differently or how we learn from others' mistakes. But like any of the 2 or 3 that I could think were a handful, none of the fans complain.
And that's the best part is that as long as the fans are getting that good experience, that's what matters. You can be an asshole to me behind closed curtains all you want. That's fine. I'll take that beating all day as long as you're not if you're on the floor being asshole to fans and stuff, I will be the one that's going to come up and be like, hey man, like, can we go into the green room? We need to talk for a second. You're being a little much, but I've never had to do that because it's never come to that. You know,
I think there's that green smoke that's flowing. I think it makes everybody a little bit happier than they normally would be.
Well, there's only so many things I can do to elevate the mood at Astronomicon, but I know it's always a good mood.
Hey, I could talk to you guys all night about this stuff, but we got to cut you loose. Mike and Dustin, Astronomicon, find them online, astronomicon.com, June 24th, June 25th, Burton Manor, Livonia, Michigan. Gentlemen, I'll see you Saturday.
Thank you so much, brother.
You got it.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
No, anytime, and love you guys, and see you this weekend. We're going to wrap things up for episode 458 on behalf of Bob and Randy. Do us all a favor. Drink up your drinks. Get your phone numbers. You don't got to go home. You just got to get the hell out of here. See you next week. Drive careful. Beat it.